All right. Welcome, everyone. My name is Jeffrey Saddoris, and this is, what is this? This is episode 5 of the as yet unnamed live stream that we're doing here. Thanks for being here. I want to begin with maybe some, well, not maybe. We got some sad news. As you probably have heard, we lost Edward Van Halen yesterday. And man, 2020 is just a kick in the teeth, isn't it? Earlier this year, we lost Neil Peart, which hit me pretty hard. And now Eddie Van Halen. I can't play any Van Halen music, obviously, because licensing, and it would be ridiculously expensive. And if I did play it, I would get in trouble. So I'm not going to play any Van Halen music, but I've got a couple stories for you. A couple degrees. Differing degrees of separation between me and Eddie Van Halen. And it begins with something that I never really believed. But Van Halen started out in Arcadia, Temple City, Pasadena area of Southern California, which coincidentally is where my mother grew up. And for example, Dave's dad, David Lee Roth's dad, was a dentist, and they lived in Pasadena. In fact, I believe, if he hasn't sold it or moved out, I think Dave still lives in his father's, their family home. And so, growing up, I would hear these stories that Van Halen played in my grandmother's backyard, which, again, I never believed until my uncle, Bob, showed me a couple flyers that he had drawn up for the band when they were still a backyard band playing in and around Arcadia, Altadena, Pasadena, Temple City. And it became a little more real to me then. And although I still didn't really believe it. And at one point he asked my grandmother, he says, "Mom, you remember Eddie and Alex coming to the house and playing, right?" And hand to God, she confirmed it, that yes, in fact, Eddie and Alex and the then fledgling Van Halen had played in her backyard. And I just thought it was wild that here's my uncles. I had 3 uncles at the time: Bob, Greg, and Jerry, and they were Hellraisers. So I guess it makes sense. So that's one degree of separation, I guess, between me and Eddie. Fast forward, 20 years or so. Well, maybe not that many. 15 years, let's say. I was in college. I was going to Cal State Long Beach. And this must have been my sophomore year. Must have been my sophomore year. I don't think it was my freshman year. I think it was sophomore year. Anyway, we had a Japanese student that came over and went to school, and he was in our dorms. He wasn't in my cluster. He was in like another grouping, but he was in our building. And his name was Hide. Hidekazu Yoshikawa is, I believe, what his full name was. I think that's how I remember it. And Hide was from Harajuku. I'm not sure how you pronounce that. But anyway, he was from that area of Japan, which is widely known to, at the time anyway, to have this intense fascination with American culture, particularly rock and roll music, rockabilly culture, punk, So, and Hide kind of epitomized that fascination. He loved American movies. He loved American music. Top Gun had recently come out, and he got a haircut so he'd look like Tom Cruise, and he said it. He was like, "Oh, I look like Tom Cruise," and so Hide bought this shitty little Volkswagen Squareback, and if you've never seen one of these things, they're like a little mini station wagon that Volkswagen used to make, and it was this little green, again, not in great shape, and the first thing he did was spend a weekend with several rolls of masking tape and many cans of red, white, and black spray paint. And he spray painted this shitty Volkswagen Squareback to look like Eddie Van Halen's Frankenstein guitar. And rolled up, triumphantly at the end of the weekend in this car that proving his fandom and his love for sort of American culture and rock and roll music. And we just thought that was the kind of the coolest thing that to embrace something so completely and so immediately, right? And I've never forgotten it. It's Hide. So Hide, if you're still out there somewhere, if I had a beer, I'd raise it to you. The third one is, it wasn't quite as many years later, but I was working at a place called 525 Post-Production in Hollywood. It was a video post-production facility, one of the best in the world at the time. And this was, 89 or so when this happened. It must have been because they were working on Right Now. And a lot of the top videos and top artists at the time came in and out of there. Madonna was there. U2 was there. Bon Jovi was there. Lyle Lovett, Danzig. I mean, just who's who of people that were there. And at one point, I was walking from. There were two buildings. There was the main building. And the building is beautiful. It used to be the old Deluxe Film Lab on the corner of, Cole and Santa Monica, just west of Cahuenga, if you're familiar with Southern California. Anyway, so it was the old Deluxe Film Lab. It was this beautiful Art Deco-y kind of building, had a big tower that the then President Steve Hendricks, his office was up this spiral staircase in the big tower. How I got the gig there is another story, but no less interesting, if this is even interesting. Anyway, so I was walking from the secondary building. There were two buildings. There was like the main building, and then there was the building that was referred to as the annex. And that's where like the digital suites were and a lot of the post-production suites were. And so I'm walking from one to the other, and this Lamborghini assault vehicle pulls into the parking lot. And these things, if you've never seen these things, they are, they're kind of what a Hummer wishes it was in some ways. I mean, they're beautiful and loaded down with gear. They're four-wheel drive. They can do, 100 miles an hour in the snow, loaded down with gear, that kind of thing. And so this thing pulls into the parking lot, and out pops Eddie Van Halen. And he is just, you've seen pictures of him. He's just like he is in pictures. He's got the ripped up jeans, a t-shirt, a scarf, and this like long kind of dustery kind of coat, long hair, flashes this grin and just says, "Hey, how you doing?" And just the nicest, completely unassuming guy. Well, my role there at 525, I was a glorified production assistant. They called them client assistants, and our job was to do anything that the client wanted, from making cappuccinos to going out and getting food, or There were a couple times, actually, it was one time subsequent to this that I had to go to Eddie's house to either drop off or pick up tapes. I think dropping off tapes. And that was another thing. Like you roll up to his house, which was, well, it's in the hills in Southern California on the valley side. And, you roll up to this compound and all the garage doors are open and there's all these exotic cars. And again, just completely unassuming guy, though, super nice, etc. Anyway, so later on in the day, in the evening, in most of the bands like this, they came in at night and worked late into the night. So it was fun to do the night shift or even doubles where you went, all night into the next morning, because that's when, you got to see some of our heroes. And, the unwritten rule was you dare not talk to anybody, unless spoken to, kind of thing. You don't go up, oh, hey, Eddie, I love your stuff. But at one point, we were called in because they were working on Right Now, the video for Right Now, and Alex was there, and they wanted pizza. They wanted pizza and beer, and so we said, okay, well, where can we go? Where do you want us to go? And Alex was like, no, I got it. So, and I just thought that was so cool that here's Alex. I think he was driving a Corvette at the time, if memory serves. I don't know. This was a long time ago, but just. Again, some of the best known rock stars in the world at the time, and still going out to get pizza and beer, and just hanging out, making music, regular guys. And I always just thought that was really cool. I thought that I never got a chance to see them live, oddly enough, but seeing them just sort of interacting with people and the way they interacted with people, unassuming, humble, appreciative, just always hit the right note with me, and makes it all the more sad that he is gone. But I understand he was fighting a long time, and he will be missed. So I wish I could play something, but I can't. I can play something though, and let's play a little something. This is a song by Jahzzar. It's called Bored. And let's open up the phones, 202-539-0209. If you've got a Van Halen story, great. Some other kind of story that you'd like to share, questions, comments. We'll play this tune and we'll come back with some more. I've got a couple other things I want to share with you. Some kind of exciting things that are coming up for this show and for some other shows. So we'll be back in just a minute. All right, that was Jahzzar. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I really kind of love his stuff. So I'm very excited because our first caller is a friend of mine that I have known for a long, long time. How long have we known each other, Patrick?
Yes, I'd like to place an order for pickup.
Douche.
Do I have the wrong number?
Oh my God! Only you.
I would. Well,
Was it was
you came into Universal
99? Was it 99?
Well, I got to Universal in '97, so I don't remember when you popped in.
I started
So
on
somewhere,
the theme park site, so that was I think it was 99. So anyway,
okay. Well,
we've known each other for 20 odd years. And Patrick is one of those guys, in addition to, can I just brag about you for a minute? Or would you like to
don't
brag
let me
about
stop.
yourself?
I'll take off. I'll lead. Where you leave off,
You'll fill in the gaps. All right. So I first met Patrick at Universal. We were both in the online division at Universal Studios. And Patrick was audio and video and did all things sort of musical and video, and had come from a background in music. And I'm going to let you fill in some of the gaps, because especially like, hit songs and, things that you've written. But Patrick is also, hand to God, this is not, he's heard me say this before, but he is one of the best photographers I know. He is technically impeccable. His concept shoots are terrific, and I just love him. So, Patrick Shipstad.
Just give me your PayPal account, and I will drop some coins in there.
Venmo me something for the trouble.
Yeah, I like how you've kind of like worked in a PR guy into your new
right
list of talents. Very good. Yeah. No, there's a handful of people that, I can say that, held over from, 20 years ago, and, working at a job that you go, still people I still talk to all the time, and love their own work, respect their.
Oh, thanks.
Aw.
It's mutual, darling. It's mutual. And it's what sucks is we haven't seen each other since I moved here. Yeah. And I think you may have even been the last person I saw before moving. Certainly one of.
Well,
which is strange.
I kissed you at the train.
That's true. That's true. And yes, my leg did go up.
It's crazy, and even now with this whole quarantine thing, there's so many people that are leaving California.
Really?
And friends that are leaving California. Was it something I said?
Right. We were talking the other day, and what you do has, sort of necessarily, or at least the way you do it has necessarily changed. And, Patrick is primarily a portrait photographer. That's fair, right?
Yeah. I mean, I do other stuff when I just, feel like, or if it, comes to me, or if or I just feel like doing something a little different, or filling in the creative holes when there isn't a shoot planned, or,
right.
Just because you want to stay creative. Yeah.
But you've had to kind of pivot because you can't do these live shoots any longer, or I don't think you can. Can you? Have you done any shoots with subjects?
No.
Yeah.
No. And when we were talking about this the other day, is that, what are artists doing? What are creatives in general doing since this lockdown? That either you can't do the same thing, or you have to alter the way you do it. I'm curious. If you don't require other people to do your, to wear, like, you're not a portrait photographer and you need to be in contact with other people, and you shoot still life or product photography, or something that you can do almost, in solidarity. In solitary. Has this extra time bought people more time to actually be more productive? Because they're at home more,
right.
or it had the opposite effect and kind of just made them freeze up and I don't, you know what I mean? It could go either way with so many people, and then how this has affected them.
Mm-hmm. Well, what have you done? How did you pivot, and when did you realize you had to pivot? How far into this thing were we when you realized or made the decision, I've got to do something else because this isn't coming back the way it was?
Well, I mean, when you really have no option to shoot with people because it's just not safe.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I've I don't want to say career-wise because that's certainly not the case. But I don't think I did any type of very mindful pivot on anything. I mean, I've actually gone back to old shoots and wound up reworking them
mm-hmm.
or processing them in a different way or looking for old nuggets and that I might have missed to just to put something out there and trying to kind of stay creative and then shooting some still life stuff and trying to do something that just to keep those creative muscles working,
mm-hmm.
And then digging in and studying different software programs and working on different types of techniques and stuff like that. So it's nothing that I've pivoted to monetize in any way.
Right.
It's more it's just like taking time to work on yourself and then do whatever I can to just stay creative, because if you don't paint or shoot or do your podcast, I mean you have so many creative outlets that you do that you're probably just juggling them. But if you only have one or two, it's I don't know. It's important to just, I guess, just stay. It's not and that's not staying relevant in terms of social media or anything like that, but just to keep yourself from kind of when you kind of go, you get antsy and you just go, I just want to produce something.
Right.
I could just sit there and pick up a camera and hold it in my hand, and it's like a pacifier. You know what I mean? It's like you go, oh, this is what I want to feel, and it's and I don't know, it's.
Are you getting out and shooting? Are you getting out with a camera in your hand to keep those things sharp, or are you kind of keeping it low key and doing things in the house or around the house?
Yeah, I started to try and do something different, and I'm not a flower shooter or a nature shooter, so to speak.
Right.
But I've had a lot of fun with some vintage lenses and modifying vintage lenses,
mm-hmm.
Reversing elements and trying to get really interesting different bokeh effects and stuff, and then shooting dead flowers and dried pods and things like that. Try and do something a little different than what a typical, like, I'm going to shoot a flower.
Right.
Well, what happens if I shoot dead flowers with lens babies?
Right. Right.
And
yeah, you're getting that sort of Irving Penn, like, how can, Edward Weston, how can we shoot these things differently than just, oh, look, here's a pretty picture of a pretty thing with pretty light.
Yeah. I mean, there's certainly nothing wrong with shooting flowers, because there's people who just do it, it's just in a stunning way. I'm just like, oh my God.
Right.
Then that's just not my thing. But what's my, as with anybody who's, creative, it's like, well, what's my take on that? And what can I do to mix it up and make it mine, so that when I present my contribution to the pool,
mm-hmm.
I feel like it's just a little bit more representative of my take on something.
Right.
And, that's all.
Something I don't think I've ever asked you about, but have you ever had that urge to go kind of the Brooke Shaden route of doing a self-portrait series either straight up or heavily post-processed or, thematic, because you also, in a lot of your shoots, you're making props, you're making, headpieces, you're making, environments to shoot these things in. Have you ever thought about turning the camera on yourself to flex a different muscle?
I could do some tasteful nudes if you like. I mean, you just send me
Would you please
send me a shot list. And
I mean, how are you going to learn to be tasteful? Is the question really? That's what I need to figure out.
That'd be the one thing that you'd be like, no, Photoshop could not handle this. We're still not. It's like we're going to need James Cameron to come in and write, have the team write some software. It hasn't been done yet. No, I have no desire to put stuff on.
You don't want to be in front of the camera.
The only time we do that is, when we're doing our Christmas cards or we're,
right.
that kind of stuff. I mean, and occasionally I've had to take some self-portraits when I need to do a profile shot for something.
Right.
Let me update, my profile shot for whatever.
Right.
And yes, I love making props. I love making sets and finding wardrobe and then making and creating stuff. And it can take a lot of time to kind of nurse the elements into place. Before if it's a kind of a broader concept, and I realize this is going to take a lot.
Well, and to be fair, you are a monster with a glue gun.
Yeah, and a bedazzler.
Right.
And,
that's right. Do you ever miss the music? Do you ever miss the acting? Do you ever miss being in front of a crowd or in front of an audience? Really?
No. It's
so they did not call you for the recent Fast Times table read.
No, not the Fast Times, not Murphy Brown. None of that stuff. I'm broken.
Who do you need to call to get back in the game? Is what I want to know.
Is there a game?
Or who do I need to call to get you back in the game?
God. Hey, I think Morgan Freeman was in his late 50s or early 50s before he even stepped into the game.
Yeah,
I believe. Yeah,
coincidentally, played the voice of the narrator in the recent table read of Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Oh, he did.
Yeah, he was the narrator.
I missed it.
Yeah. Did you not watch that? Good. Shia LaBeouf played Spicoli.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, it was Ray Liotta was Mr. Hand. Jimmy Kimmel played a bunch of parts, including the pizza delivery guy, wonderfully played by your friend Taylor Negron, who sadly we lost.
Yes.
Still, one of my favorite shoots you've ever done is those shots that you did of him.
Oh, well, we did. We did like a dozen.
With the Raven, the one with the Raven and the shoelaces. I mean, they were great shots.
Oh, that was the first one. That was the first one we did, actually. And it's interesting. There's meaning behind that shot. You mean the one where he's curled up in the chair?
Yes.
And then it's a stark white background for I'm sure nobody here has seen it. Stark white background, and there's just a chair kind of there, and I just love crows and ravens and stuff, and I've used them a lot in my shots for some reason. And then probably about 6 feet away is just this little black crow. I think it's crow or raven, whatever. And it's just kind of staring at him, and he is kind of curled up in a ball with his arms around his knees up to his chest,
Mm-hmm.
and his neck is kind of hunkered down, and he's just kind of looking at it, and it's looking at him.
Did he know he was sick at that point?
Yes.
He did know.
I think it was early on.
Wow.
And to me, that was a bit of the crow was the cancer, and him curled up was him dealing with it. Then there's another shot we did where he is cradling the crow in his arms very comfortably,
mm-hmm.
like a pet.
Mm-hmm.
And
was there acceptance there? Do you think? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Did he know that he would not? I mean, was it terminal from the beginning? I don't know much about this. You and I have never really talked about it.
No, because there was years that I had not seen him. I mean, he went through the stages of when he had to shave his head, and he just went through typical stages of it.
Mm-hmm.
But he was going back between New York and L.A., and he was in New York for years,
right?
And I had not seen him, and I've not seen him in forever. And he had just did a little showcase with a handful of other comedians in L.A., and he came down and he said, "Do you want to come down and shoot it? And I'll introduce you to the people who run the thing. Maybe you could shoot some of their other shows." And I said, "Sure." Anytime he asked me to do something, I was happy
mm-hmm.
to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And it just so happened that it was it 20 years, 30 years? So I get to the show, and Amy Heckerling is there.
Oh, no
and I was
way.
like, oh, my God. Yeah.
Okay, so let me jump in here real quick. The reason that this is kind of an epiphany moment is Patrick had a small part in Fast Times at Ridgemont High. That's why I've been kind of ribbing him about it. He had a small part in it, and so did Taylor Negron, and they had known each other for a long time. Amy Heckerling famously directed the film. Go ahead.
Well, I had not seen Amy since the shoot.
Oh, really?
I mean, since since whenever it was done, and I don't know, 82 or something like
82, 83, and, something like that.
Yeah, and I actually had pictures on my phone. And she wouldn't have remembered me from Adam if I hadn't whipped out my phone and actually had the shots on. They were just shots that I had listed in of old times on Facebook.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And so it was this kind of weird moment, and she was just kind of like in awe, like, oh my God, that's you, and
you're that guy.
You guys are friends, and it was just lovely. But as it happens, there's always going to be that time where you go, I did not know this was going to be the last time I saw you.
Right.
To Taylor.
Right.
Because it's always like, all right, we'll see you later.
We'll see you next time.
We'll
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you don't see each other for a while, and you wish each other, Happy New Year and Merry Christmas and blah, 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 or text occasionally.
When did he paint you? How close to the end was that for him?
I just got one of those framed. I don't think he. You know what I'd have to do? I'd have to look at the metadata on the pictures, because he painted me twice.
Right.
And
he kept one, didn't he? And gave you one or something?
He kept one, and he gave me of the one that I had the camera with me. Like I just had my camera around my neck, and I was taking pictures of him while he was painting me, and or while he didn't need me there, and he might have been working on background detail, and I didn't need to be there.
Right.
I would walk around and shoot him, and we were doing this at his apartment in, I want to say Studio City, but this was in Silver Lake, I think. Yeah, he had a handful of apartments that he kind of went back and forth.
Right.
So I'm sure I could look at the shots I took, and that would be the date of when he. Yeah, but otherwise I.
Did I ever tell you I ran into him? I don't know if I ever told you this. I ran into him at a bar in Pasadena, and we just got to chatting, and he was telling me he had just gotten back. He had some villa somewhere, maybe Spain. Does that sound familiar?
Mm-hmm.
And
I think it's France.
Okay, in France. Okay, so he had just gotten back, and we just chatted for 15, 20 minutes, but just such a charming man. I mean, absolutely, just such a charming guy. And I don't even know if I ever made the connection between you guys until much later. Because I think it was. My gosh, I don't even know when it was. It might have even been while I was at uni when that happened. Mm-hmm. But, just completely, there by himself, just kind of hanging out, no entourage, no, very humble. I mean, he was just a really lovely guy.
Well, we didn't really hang out and know each other during fast times. Obviously, met him, but and remember Nicolas Cage. He didn't even have any lines in the.
Yeah, and he was still Nicholas Coppola.
Yeah, but I remember him there, and he was just a guy. I mean, he was nobody, but I do remember him being there.
Wow.
And you're like, oh, okay, he became Nicolas Cage.
Right. I lost my hand.
Oh, so good. I can't wait to see that new movie where I guess he gets locked into a theme park with evil killer animatronic.
What? Is it kind of seriously? Like this is a thing?
Yeah. And I forget the name of it. It's not unlike what is it? The Something at Freddy's or.
Oh gosh, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
It was just kind of like an evil Chuck E. Cheese.
Yeah.
But basically, he gets into one of his Nicolas Cage, freak out things, and he winds up, battling these animatronic things at a theme park.
Oh my God.
I can't wait for it. It's just going to be so over the top.
Well, he also got cast as the Tiger guy, the Tiger King. What was?
Oh yeah.
What's that guy's? Is that what it is? Tiger King? Yeah. He got cast in that, and I guess there are two simultaneous films being made about him. Nick Cage is one, and I don't remember who's cast in the other one.
Yeah. Well, they needed somebody subtle.
Right. That's right. He plays it really close to the vest.
Anyways, can we get back to me?
Right, sure. I'm sorry. We strayed only for a moment.
No. I was saying that I had not seen Taylor in I don't know, decades, literally.
Right.
And my friend Danny was friends with him, and I said, what, I would love to photograph him. I said, could you just send him my website and let me and if he's into it, great, and if not, then whatever. And so my friend Danny reintroduced me to him, and it wound up being kind of a thing where I would come up with something, and he's like, I'll do anything you want me to do. He goes, just tell me what you want me to do.
Just let's do it. There was that trust there, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, and that was out of the gate. It wasn't like, okay, I gained your trust. I like some of the shots we did. Will whatever. So whatever kind of, conceptual or whatever we wanted to do, he was always down with it, and just a lovely guy to work with.
Yeah.
And I miss him. He was a good friend. And then we wound up working on a handful of projects together where I was shooting cast photos for a pilot he was working on, and photos for a play that he was putting on. It was always fun. It was always lovely to work with.
Right. And then it kind of went the other way with the whole debacle about the movie poster. Remember that?
Yeah, let's not get into that.
We won't go there.
Anyway,
it's cover your butts, guys. That's the make sure you keep an eye out on your work.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, I have a Van Halen story.
Do you? All right, hit me.
I was working on in '93. I was working on a sitcom called Cafe American, and the story was with Valerie Bertinelli,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it only went for one season. And so Eddie would come by occasionally to watch the show and support her, and he was just a super chill guy, and he was a heavy smoker, of course, and
right.
So he spent a lot of time outside the stage, between the stages, just kind of hanging out and smoking and chilling out by himself. He was always alone. He never had anybody with him.
Right.
And I you never want to be that guy and be like, hey, I love you.
Yeah, right. Do you know who you are?
Exactly. But it's, you'd make eye contact because you're just there, all the time, and I, he'd smile, he'd give you a nod like, hey, how's it going? And I finally just got the nerve to go up and say hi and just thank him for everything he's done, and I fan, and then you want to get out of their face, just say your thing, and then don't start asking,
don't overstay. Yeah.
Exactly. And so throughout the season, we chat a couple times here and there, and he was nice enough to give me an autograph, which I still have, and it's framed along.
Oh, no way.
A few other pages, yeah. And he was just, he was as nice as he was talented.
Yeah.
He was just chill. As you were mentioning earlier, he just had no attitude about him that
Zero.
I ever saw.
Yeah, zero. I think they were there for a week, or several days of the week, and just the nicest guy. Yeah.
Yeah. And as I posted something on Facebook too, and I said, when you meet your heroes and they are genuine and they give you the time of day, you just never forget it.
Thank you.
Makes all the difference.
Wait, what?
I was gonna circle back to that.
No, I agree.
But I
agree.
But I also do like when you put me in my place.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, I'm going to wrap it up with you and play a song and see if anybody else wants to call in. Can we do that?
Okay, great, man. Great talking with you. And
I'll talk to you during the week. All right.
All right, brother.
See you,
Take
Pat.
Care.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, that was nice. Thank you, Patrick, for calling in. You guys can find, if you want to see some of Patrick's work, find him at patrickshipstad.com. Wait, somebody called in and then they just hung up. Well, that was rude. All right, I'm going to play another tune, and if you'd like to call in, 202-539-0209. You can also Skype me at Saddoris, Saddoris, and this is Revolution Void. Hey, I'm going to come out of this song a little early because we've got Matt from Denver who wants to talk about, pick up a little bit about what we talked with Andre about on the last episode. Is that right, Matt?
Yeah.
All you. Take it away.
Okay. So yeah, like I said, you guys were talking about process versus results, and that's kind of been something that's been rattling around in my head all week. I think just kind of personally where I'm at in my own creative process, I've been kind of coming to terms with being more process focused.
Mm-hmm.
And
how so?
Well, I've had like some career changes recently, and I think in the past I've kind of maybe kind of nursed dreams of like doing photography or illustration professionally.
Mm-hmm.
And with this recent career change, I've kind of let that go, at least for the more immediate future. And it's kind of recentered me on this idea that, if I'm going to do this creative work, it's for the sake of doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I don't know, it's kind of a bittersweet feeling.
Are you doing creative work now, just even for yourself, or have you stopped that entirely with this career change?
I did have a period of a couple months where I had to stop it just because I was overwhelmed with
mm-hmm.
Everything that went with the career change, but I have picked it back up.
How did you feel in the interim when you weren't doing it? Was it kind of a blow? Did you miss it? Was it a noticeable absence?
Yeah, it was definitely an absence.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just kind of, like I said, I've kind of been coming to terms with that myself recently. So when you were talking with Andre about it last week, it really resonated with me.
Mm-hmm.
But even knowing that I'm more focused on the process, it does kind of feel a little bittersweet letting go of those results.
Right.
I don't know if that's something you've dealt with or if anyone else you've talked to deals with, but just kind of that idea that this is just going to be something I do for the sake of doing it, not for something down the road. That
right. I think a lot of people are in that boat. I really do. I know I am. I mean, virtually everything that I'm doing right now creatively is because I enjoy it. I love the process, and it's sort of kicking the can down the road. I don't know where that's going to end up, but I'm massively invested in the exploration, and almost regardless of where it ends up, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
What kind of work are you doing? Like, what kind of photography? What kind of illustration? What are some typical subjects that you might pursue?
So photography is typically portrait photography,
mm-hmm.
Family photography, and then the illustration is kind of more character design
mm-hmm.
oriented. But I'm still, that's part of the reason why, when I got to this decision point where I had to make a career change,
right.
I'm not really at a place with that where I think it's something that's going to pay my bills.
Is it an issue of skill, or is it an issue of opportunity, or a combination of both?
It's definitely an issue of skill with illustration, I think. But you said something there that also kind of I've also been thinking about. It's just kind of like, I know that you have, you've got your painting, you've got the podcast, you've got all these other creative avenues you work in. How do you balance those against each other? Because it feels like focusing on one is always letting go of the others.
That's a great question, and it is kind of a balancing act, because there's only so much time in the day, as you know, and if I'm actively pursuing one, then I'm not as actively pursuing the others. I think that for me, I feel very lucky, and I'm grateful that they scratched two different itches. You know, the painting is, I think, a very different process and outcome than the podcast, for example. I mean, I love talking to people. I absolutely love it. It's one of the reasons that I'm doing this little experiment and seeing where this goes, because I love doing research on the people that I'm talking to for Process Driven, for example, but I also like the discovery process and just hearing what's going on in your life and allowing myself to be present and practicing being present and kind of reacting to that. So I'm lucky in that they're very different pursuits. I would imagine for you with photography and illustration, because they're both visual, it must be very difficult to choose how to split your time between those two things when you do have spare time, when you do have the free time to put into one or the other. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I think so. I think they do kind of satisfy different things.
Mm-hmm.
The photography for me is a little bit more documentary.
Okay.
Whereas the illustration is more about control, I guess. Mm-hmm. So there's a little bit of a difference, but yes, it is very much like there are a lot of similarities. And that was actually why I got into the illustration in the first place, is because I was getting very frustrated with photography in the winter months when I didn't have a lot of light to use.
Right.
And I was like, well, maybe I can be working on this and working on color and composition and stuff in a different way. But of course, that ended up being its own rabbit hole. And
are you a digital illustrator, analog illustrator? Not that it matters. I'm just curious about the process.
Both.
Both. Uh-huh.
Mostly analog. I try to do a little digital here and there. But I guess maybe like 60-40.
Mm-hmm. And is it 2D, 3D? What?
2D.
2D? Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Man, it's funny. I started as an illustrator in college, and it's a muscle that I've just never been able to get back. I mean, I'm okay, but I'm nowhere near where I was, partially because I was doing it every day for hours a day. I mean, as you know, that goes away very quickly. And for me, one of the reasons that I kind of landed as an abstract painter, I mean, if I'm being completely honest, is it because my figurative skills aren't very good anymore. I mean, maybe they could get a little better. Maybe they could even get good, but they're never going to get great. I mean, if I'm, again, being as honest as I can with myself. So if I can explore other areas and still scratch that itch and have something that interests me and that I'm proud of, or that I'm moved by, that's okay. I can let go of that skill set that I no longer have if I can kind of replace it or supplement it, I guess is a better word, with something else.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But it's tough. I mean, it's tough to know when is the right time to make that left turn, and how much, I don't know how you are, and maybe you can speak to this, but I need to kind of be sure of something lately before I'm willing to dive in, which is why I kind of tried this experiment of taking monetization out of it, taking worrying about an audience out of it, taking worrying about likes out of it to the best of my ability, and just focusing on the act of making and letting that go where it needs to go, and seeing if the results are any different because I'm trying to let go of those other things. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does resonate. I think, like I said, it's kind of bittersweet in losing that kind of result as the focus, but there is that sweet side of it where it is freeing. I mean, you asked if I did 2D or 3D work, and one of the things that was kind of stressing me was at a commercial level, illustration has moved very 3D dependent, and it wasn't something I was interested in at all. And kind of taking that focus off of things, it kind of frees me to just work on what I want to work on.
Do you see a way forward in the future to pursue that more? I mean, not commercially, but I guess that's the way it would be commercially, as even if it's a side hustle. Do you see that coming back, or does it have to kind of stay as a personal pursuit now? What do you think?
I think I wouldn't rule it out entirely.
Mm-hmm.
I could see it maybe 10 years down the road. But I think there's a lot of personal development that needs to happen on my part to get to that point. Because, I mean, like, doing it commercially would be a means to an end,
right,
which is just to be able to do it instead of a day job.
Right.
But, yeah, it is something that I do kind of maybe entertain the idea of doing it further down the road, but not in the near to even medium term.
Mm-hmm. Do you find it more satisfying with some of that pressure, the sort of commercial or monetization kind of pressure off of it? Do you find the process more satisfying or less satisfying, or how has that changed for you?
It's a little bit of both. It's I do, like I said, I do find it freeing to be able to just work in the mediums I want to, but I think I do get some motivation from having some sort of external pressure on me to produce that helps a little bit.
Right. Real deadlines instead of like, I need to get something done by Thursday. That's just an internal deadline. I struggle with those, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I have a hard time because Thursday becomes Friday, which becomes Monday, which becomes March, that becomes June. I'm really bad about internal deadlines.
Yeah.
Well, so what's the solution? What are you thinking? Where are you leaning in terms of, do you just say, look, this is where it is right now. I'm going to keep doing it to keep my skills sharp and to keep myself creatively sort of stimulated and satisfied. And if something changes in the future, so be it. Or do you resign yourself that this is only for you right now and not even think about the other things?
I think maybe a little bit more of the former, because I think that I do, like, if I do want to kind of keep that idea of it being something that I dedicate more of my time to down the road,
Mm-hmm.
I do need to have some sort of drive to build my skills to that eventuality and not just do it when I feel like it. I do need to kind of like push through those barriers and keep working.
Right.
But it is still, it's not entirely like an obligation. Like,
right.
I enjoy making the things for the sake of making them. So
I think that's honestly, man, I think that's one of, if not the most important things, is you have to love what you do. You have to love what you're making, what you're putting out into the world. If you don't, then why should anyone else?
Yeah.
I mean, cereal box wisdom, I guess, but that's that's the way I feel about it, Yeah. And I think that for me, I think I am getting better at the creative work because I'm allowing myself to explore the things that are interesting to me, not explore the things that I think will sell or will be liked or appreciated by an audience, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I'd love to see some of your stuff. If you'd care to shoot me an email with it, I would love to check it out.
Sure thing.
Yeah. Just send it talkback@jeffreysaddoris.com. I'd love to take a look at it.
All right. Well, thanks for talking to me today.
My
Jeffrey.
pleasure. My pleasure. Call back anytime.
All right.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Well, that was nice too. Boy, man, this is the thing. This is the thing. This is why I'm doing this. This is exactly why. People I haven't talked to in a while, people I've never talked to. So we're going to wrap up in just a minute because we're at that hour mark, but I want to tell you something that could be interesting. Actually, you know what? Maybe I'll save it. Maybe I'll save it for the next time. It's an upcoming partnership that I think is going to help, certainly help this show, but it's going to help me take some other projects. Let's call them projects. Let's not call them shows. in different directions in the future. And it's, I'll give you a hint. It's music and sound effects, but that's all I'm going to tell you. The deal has been done, but we're still waiting for a couple things to fall into place. But, I will save that for another time. What I do want to talk about is, I think it was last time or the time before, I'm doing a new project called A Day's Work. And I want to talk to people about talk to you people about what you do, not necessarily creative people, not necessarily artists or musicians, although I'm not going to say no, I'm certainly open to that. But I want to talk to, waitresses and radiologists and gas station attendants and, whoever wants to sit down and have a conversation about it and about what they do and why they do it, what they get from it, what they bring to it. And the way I'm going to do it, one of the things that I have realized about myself is that scheduling is very difficult for me. When I ask people to come on a show, whether it's, in between or process driven, and they say yes, I often don't go any further than that for whatever reason. I think that maybe they're saying yes just to be nice to me, or they're saying yes just to not want to hurt my feelings. And oftentimes I have dropped the ball on following up with people. So I'm starting to use this service called Calendly, Calendly, Calendly. And it's an online booking service. So basically what this is, I'm getting it all set up now. Probably in the next few days, I'll get, it'll be out. Certainly by the next show, it'll be up and ready. But you'll be able to go in and book a half hour or book an hour, and I'll get a notification of it. I think it's going to be phenomenal. I think it's going to be really terrific for addressing one of my shortcomings, weaknesses, failures, etc., with a solution that helps me make the initial ask and then put the ball in someone else's court and say, look, here are the days and times that I'm available. Book whatever works for you. I'll get a notification about it. I make sure I do my homework, I do my research, I do my prep, and we go on from there and do our thing. So I think that's going to be great. More about that in the future. I'm also thinking about doing a Halloween show, some sort of spooky theme, Halloween theme show. Although I was told today, Sean told me that Halloween is a particularly American holiday, and call me ignorant. I guess I wasn't aware of that, but okay. So maybe it's not exclusively Halloween. Maybe it's scary stories you heard as a child, folk tales from your native country or something like that. But I'd like it to be this kind of collaborative experience. Maybe it's a table read of a story. Maybe it's individual stories. Maybe some of them are live. Maybe some of them can be pre-recorded. I'm open to ideas around this. I just thought it would be kind of fun to do a themed show, and it kind of fits in with the music effects thing that I teased a minute ago. So if you'd like to be involved, or you've got some suggestions or ideas or feedback, either leave them in the comments below the video on YouTube, or text me. Find me on Twitter or Instagram, or email me. Email's probably the best way to go. Why don't you just email me, talkback@jeffreysaddoris.com. And that way I can get back to you, and we'll have a record, kind of a running threaded record of everything that transpires, I guess. Okay. All right. So I'm going to wrap up. We're running a little bit over. I'm trying to keep these at about an hour. But thank you, all of you who have called in. Thank you. Thank you for being here and watching, and the comments that are coming in the chat. Terrific. Subscribe to this so you don't miss anything. What else do you do? What do the YouTubers say? What do you smash that like button? That's what you do. And then you like it. You hit the bell, something like that, to get the notifications. Anyway, you guys know YouTube's been around for a decade. You guys know what to do if you dig it. And I will see you same time next Wednesday for another episode of this show. We really should think of a name for it. So that's your homework. Help me think of a name for this thing. And until then, I will talk to you on the next one. Thank you for being here. You can find more stuff, JeffreySaddoris.com. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Jeffrey Saddoris. You can subscribe to all of the things wherever you get podcasts. Subscribe to Jeffrey Saddoris, everything. And I will see you on the next one. I won't see you, but I'll talk to you. All right. Thank you for being here.